I think my main instruction for myself today is this. I think that's a good instruction for everything. The other one is stay like a dog instruction. So today I'm going to attempt the impossible, and what seems incredibly daunting, is to present something that is considered a basic text of Buddhism. And not just one branch or one lineage, but all, even the Zen people, revere this teaching. So where does it come from? It's generally accredited to a dude named Atisha Dipankara, and he has another name. Can we see the picture, Josie? This is a teacher, Atisha, also known as a Lord Atisha. Right away, I've got issues with the words. But anyhow, here's one of the many images that you can find on all good internets of Atisha Dipankara. If you see him in art, since they didn't have photography, he was sort of portrayed in an idealized fashion. And in this image, Atisha is sitting on the lotus, just like you see most deity type figures, but he's a human figure, and he's wearing this particular sort of hat. Usually, to my mind, that means this is not a deity figure. This is a human being who's achieved some kind of enlightenment. So that's Atisha. You know it's Atisha because of his mudra. This mudra is the teaching mudra. Think teachers explaining the model of the atom. And you could see there by his left elbow, this round thing, that is his traveling pouch, because he took his knowledge and went to Tibet from his home place, which was Bengal in India, where he was considered to be a very, very great teacher, so great that the people in Tibet that wanted his help had heard of him. That's the traveling pouch. To his right is a stupa, a figure of the stupa. He's not always pictured with the stupa and the bag, sometimes with one, sometimes with the other, sometimes they're both on the same side. But if you see the stupa, thank you for the pointer there, Joseph, and the bag, you're like, hey, that's Lord Atisha, for whatever it's worth, because quite often for us Westerners, these Tibetan thangkas all look sort of similar. And I'm not going to go into detail about all of the other things, but that is Lord Atisha. And he generally has a very sweet, kind expression on his face. Okay, enough for that. We could go back to the regular screen. So Atisha was 60 years old when he was called upon to travel to Tibet and bail them out of a big mess. The Tibetans at this time in the 900s, the Tibetan kings were getting pretty wild. And I don't know, cats and dogs living together, crazy stuff. I won't go into all kinds of terrible things happening in the structure of their government, which is based on Buddhism. And the last king, he became king by murdering his own brother. At any rate, once that king was gone, the new rulers saw that their monasteries were in disarray. They didn't know what was going on. They needed some help. And who better than Lord Atisha? We've got to get Atisha up here. He'll fix the problem. You can just imagine governing folks sitting in committee and deciding to hire a consultant. So anyway, Atisha is home in Bengal with his own monastery and, very loving man and doing he was perfect. He was probably a type 1 and perfect. If you could even imagine that. Interestingly about Atisha and so many of these important figures in Tibetan history is they all seem to be coming from a royal background or an extremely wealthy kind of things are all perfect. Imagine, I don't know, and imagine that in those days, perhaps, are these the only people that were able to spend any time reading and studying, where they didn't have to constantly be scratching a living from the dirt? Maybe so. And in that spirit, all of us here are blessed with this same kind of luck that we're here and we have access to this teaching. Even if this is the first time you're hearing about it and you have the misfortune of hearing it from me. But I assure you, I'm just translating, just share. It's just, a book report, a show and tell. So don't be overly impressed by me. Certainly don't. So Atisha, there are stories, and you could get into those, and those are a lot more fun and romantic than contemplating the actual pithy slogans themselves. But the story is that 9 people were sent in a pilgrimage to India that took many months, because they didn't have airplanes. And all of them died on the way and never came back. Eventually, back in Tibet, we're going to have to try again. Others left, and there's all the details about who and what and exactly how. Others left, and all of them died, but one who managed, crawling to the door of Atisha's house. Help! In Tibet, we really need you to come help sort us out and get our monastic system back on track. So Atisha, all about it, he said, and sitting there and pondering it for a while. The story is that he was visited Tara, this great Buddhist deity, considered to be she's a she, so I like her. So she's one of the only deities that doesn't have a penis. And, no disrespect to all of you penises. But anyway, Green Tara told him that he needed to go. Imagine you're 60 years old, you've got no car, no money or whatever, and you have to go to another country, make your way there, and then you're going to sort everything out for them. I don't know. Anyway, so just all that to say that these teachings are rare and very hard won in a way. It's called Lojong. That's Lojong, Lojong. And I think there's also a rapper named Lojong. So if you do Google it, you have to sift through the things. And there's ever so much information about Lojong. What does it mean? We in the West, we translate things, and most have translated it as mind training. And you might think, well, hell, I went to school for 12 years and then college and then graduate school. Maybe you went to graduate school again. Well, I just count after a while, countless years of study and so on. It's not the same. This kind of mind training is how to. The Bourbon Festival is happening right outside my door. Thus, I try to keep the dogs from barking too much. So it's trying to, like all of Buddhism, its main goal is to squash the ego. Squash the ego. And I don't know, the word ego, it's very much wrapped up in psychology and Sigmund Freud and all of that. What is the ego? The ego, it's a kind of It's your self-identity. It's when you, I think Richard Rohr had a thing where you write on the wall, I am whatever. I am American. I am this, all those things that surround it, combined to what's considered to be the ego. And this Lojong training is designed to smash that up. And not in a way that you can't survive in the world, but rather to lighten up a little bit, you know? When I hear that, I think I hear male voices telling me, don't you think you're overreacting? Or things like this, or lighten up, or just relax. These things are, you know, it's not easy stuff. And it's a system of pithy slogans. And these slogans are designed to eat away at the ego a little bit, to make you an open-hearted person, to be more less stuck on yourself and your problems and your wounds and slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. So that's what it is. And you're like, okay, so how about it? There are 7 main points. And there are many different commentaries about it. So I'm just going to go through, I'm just going to read them out to you with a pause. Willa says, yay, read them out. So point 1, first train in the preliminaries. This is also called taking the attitude of the 4 reminders. So there's sort of 4 more things, not the 4 noble truths, but other stuff. And we'll come back to the preliminaries and talk about them a little bit. You're not going to have to slog through every one of these because believe me, you don't want to. Some of them are brutal. Just start with a few, pick a card and go for it. So first, the preliminaries, the basis of Dharma practice. And you know, those preliminaries are enough just in themselves, in a way. Point 2, and this is what's considered the meat of the practice. Point 2, the main practice, which is training in bodhicitta. And there are 2 kinds of bodhicitta, absolute and relative bodhicitta. Basically, the bodhicitta is about how to open your heart, if you would. And those are the meatiest ones for me personally. I could comment about specifically. Well, then there's point 3, which is a good one, the transformation of bad circumstances into the path of enlightenment. I know Joe's touched on this. Others have touched on this before. It's also called the paramita of patience. And there are 6 or 7 in there. And that's some good stuff. Point 4, showing the utilization of practice in one's entire life. Point 5, evaluation of mind training. Point 6, disciplines of mind training. Oh, there's a whole bunch of those that sound almost like commandments. And point 7, guidelines of mind training. So those are the 7 points of mind training. The full text, the name is called The Root Text of the 7 Points of Mind Training. So you don't have to write all that down. Just type into, and all of them will just ripple out there for your perusement. So let's just read them all quickly, and then you can kind of get a feeling. What do you mean, pithy little slogan? We have a lot of pithy slow. I have pithy slow in my head, but most of them, I feel like they're there because these same cultural things that people say, like you can't win for losing, and so forth. Anyway, so the niceness about the pithiness is that you can kind of plant them in your mind in a way, not in an aggressive way, and it helps you to lighten up a little bit. So let's just go through them. There are 59 of them. First, train in the preliminaries. We'll come back to that. Now we're into the training in bodhicitta. Regard all dharmas as dreams. Number 3, examine the nature of unborn awareness. Number 4, self be a child
Rebecca, are you there? We seem to have lost you. You were breaking up and we lost your visual. Are you still there? There shouldn't be a mind training thing for losing connections here, which is we seem to have done. Like she said, the Bourbon Festival is like in revving up in Bardstown right now, and who knows what
Joshi
happened.
might be logging back in to try to get her signal back.
We'll to just take a few moments just to breathe and be silent and see if we can bring her back. Thanks, Jim. While we're waiting for one of the best resources on this is a book by Pema Chodron, if you know her. And it's just called Start Where You Are. And it's excellent. It's Rebecca Rumley. Oh, she's calling in. Well, maybe we'll see what we can do here. Hello, dear.
Well, do you want to put me on speaker, or how could I consider? I've been disconnected.
Yeah, it's just you just froze. We were freezing up quite a bit, and then I just have your visual on here. Did you lose connection?
Well, my screen is saying connecting.
Yeah. Well, you have to get off probably totally, and start over when you're caught in that little thing. I'll just say a few words, and then we'll go into the meditation part. All right.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll, and you can, if you can come back on, then you can read us a few more slogans. How's that?
All right, let's see. Joining room restriction. Try.
Yeah, try to get back on, and I'll try to. We'll just sort of wait for you.
Hey, I'm back. Oh, mercy.
There you go.
I hope you can. I hope you can hear me and see me okay. Sorry about that. I tell you what, I'm just gonna, the hell with that. Say goodbye to Chogyam Trungpa. We'll go directly into about the Tonglen teaching. I just want to recommend that if you're going to buy something or collect something, that you go with this book, Start Where You Are, by Pema Chodron. She also has, the compassion cards. Each one of these is written on a card. There are many, many books about Lojong mind training. Besides Pema, I recommend Norman Fisher. I think you've heard of Norman Fisher already. He's written a number of different books, Training in Compassion, Zen Teachings on the Practice of Lojong. Well, let me just talk to you a little bit about the Tonglen practice. So there are two slogans that go along with Tonglen practice. Sending and taking should be practiced alternately. These two should ride the breath. And this is just a description of Tonglen and how it works. And the second slogan is called Begin the sequence of sending and taking with yourself, which is getting at the point that compassion starts with making friends with ourselves, and particularly with our poisons, the messy areas. Now, I'm reading this from Pema because she's got the best words, I think. As we practice Tonglen, sending and taking, and contemplate the Lojong slogans, gradually it begins to dawn on us how totally interconnected we all are. Nowadays, people know that what we do to the rivers in South America affects the entire world, and what we do to the air in Alaska affects the whole world. Everything is interrelated, including ourselves. So that's very important. Just make friends with ourselves. It's the key to a more sane, compassionate planet. And what you do for yourself, any gesture of kindness, any gesture of gentleness, any gesture of honesty and clear seeing toward yourself will affect how you experience your world. In fact, it will transform how you experience the world. What you do for yourself, you're doing for others. And what you do for others, you're doing for yourself. And when you exchange yourself for others in the practice of Tonglen, it becomes increasingly uncertain what is out there and what is in here. Willow, come here. Pardon me, my child. If you have rage and righteously act it out and blame it all on others, it's really you who suffers. The other people and the environment suffer also, but you suffer more because you're being eaten up inside with rage, causing you to hate yourself more and more. So we act out because, ironically, we think it's going to bring us some relief. We equate it with happiness, and often there is some relief for the moment. When you have an addiction and you fulfill that addiction, there is a moment in which you feel some relief. But then the nightmare gets worse. So it is with aggression. When you get to tell somebody off, you might feel pretty good for a while, but somehow the sense of righteous indignation and hatred, it grows and it hurts you. It's as if you're picking up hot coals with your bare hands and throwing them at your enemy. And if the coals happen to hit him, he will be hurt. But in the meantime, you're guaranteed to be burned. If, on the other hand, if we begin to surrender to ourselves and drop the storyline and experience what all this messy stuff behind the storyline feels like, that's when we begin to find bodhicitta, the tenderness that's under all that harshness. By being kind to ourselves, we become kind to others. It's tricky, though. It's a tricky thing. If it's done properly, with proper understanding, we benefit as well. So the first point is that we're completely interrelated, and what you do to others, you do to yourself. And what you do to yourself, you do to others. So that is about Tonglen and doing it for yourself. There are some other slogans that I especially like. One of them is drive all blames into one. And I'm going to read from another author about that. As ordinary sentient beings, we're governed by our own selfish needs. Our history books are filled with well-known personalities who ended in ruin as a direct result of the lying, cheating, murder, and theft they engaged in to serve their own perceived needs and desires when their extreme lust, greed, jealousy, and hatred failed to deliver the good fortune they were hoping for. And if we examine our own lives, we'll see that our egoistic drives have actually attracted the difficulties that beleaguer us, a fair indication of the foolishness of our behavior. We might stay in an abusive relationship or exhibit a shameless or reckless disregard for everybody, including ourselves. Some people even place their own lives at risk in pursuit of their selfish desires. The more we become self-absorbed, the more we become entangled and confused. These delusions are self-deceptions because at a certain level, we mislead ourselves into thinking they're good for us. Shanti Deva, if you recall Shanti Deva, another great sage, is quoted as saying, "Oh, my mind, what countless ages have you spent working for yourself? And what weariness it was, while your reward was only misery." I need to stop reading to you and just I'll try to wrap up my talk here fairly quickly. And I apologize for not having internalized all this information to the point where I can close my eyes and talk to you. I needed the page and the words that Pema has there. So I've been drawn to these teachings, I guess, since 2013, because I used to write the date and my name on every book. It's my book. When did I get it? I don't do that anymore. Also, if you loan a book to someone, just assume you're not going to get it back. There's no need to follow up and, I loaned you that book 3 years ago. You still kept it. Yeah, just whatever it is you loan or give away, don't try to make a transaction out of it. Back to the preliminaries. I mentioned these because that's point number one. What the heck are those preliminaries? Like, first take a bath, then take your vitamins. No, it's first, it's called the 4 reminders. And wherever you are, you can always remind yourself of these things. First, you got to remind yourself that even though it seems like there are a lot of us, this human life is actually quite precious. You consider that you might easily have been an ant or a bacteria. There are beings of all kinds, and you happen to have this nice, tidy human form with this incredible brain and the ability to study the Lojong teachings. The sages would say that is a good enough reason to be glad that you're here and not be thinking, oh, my chiggers itch, or oh, I want to get to the movie that I haven't finished watching. I don't want to be here. Anyway, so maintain, hey, it's pretty fucking wonderful to be a human being, and don't forget it. Any human being, very, very lucky. The second one is hardcore. Be aware of the reality that this life will end. Death comes for everyone. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this second, but death is coming. Number 3, recall that whatever you do, whether virtuous or not, it has a result. What goes around comes around. And the 4th, contemplate that as long as you're too focused on self-importance and too caught up in thinking about how you're good or you're bad, you will suffer. Obsessing about getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want does not result in happiness. Even though it may seem like we all just want to be a Kardashian, or we all just want to have that $100,000 truck like my neighbor has. Wow, he's so much better off than me. But really, I know nothing. I guess that's enough, Joe, and sorry for the barking. I hope you got some kind of something out of that. Highly recommend start where you are. And if you don't like the idea of studying something, which I have to confess, that's kind of hard. It's got a whole lot of, being in class, and am I going to take a test, and do I have to read that on the paper? You could get an Audible book. Start where you are. And the narrator is not Pema, but it's lovely, and she narrates a lot of Pema stuff. So go for that. Get some cards, or just look up Lojong Mind Training. There are ever so many online magazines that have articles about it, and I can't think of all the names of the different ones there, but they'll probably ripple out for you. Okay, so that's enough jibber jabber. Enough of me. So now we're going to go into meditation.